Settle in under the pines. If this quiet story helps you breathe a little easier, whisper back. Tap subscribe so the next lullaby finds you. Leave a soft like to keep the porch light glowing. And drop a gentle comment. Tell me which chapter you'd like tucked in next. Okay. Deep breath. The woods are listening. Let's begin. Settle down. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw rest. Let your eyes grow heavy the way pine cones do, closing themselves when the air cools and the world gets quiet. Tonight we are going to a small town tucked between ridgelines and old trees. A town where the roads curve like sleepy snakes, where porches creak, where the diner lights burn soft, where the wind smells like sap and wet dirt after a summer storm. We will travel there together, slowly, kindly, with calm footsteps and a gentle voice. We will listen to the whole story, from the first whispers under the roots to the last bus that hums its way out of town at the end of a long summer. This is the story of Gravity Falls, and threaded through it, like a thin golden string in a dark quilt, is a shape, a triangle, an eye, a name that people say, mostly in jokes and half-remembered dreams. Bill Cipher. We will not make him loud. We will not make him sharp. We will place him far away for now, like a star you can point to but not touch. If his voice appears, it will sound distant, like a radio 2 rooms over. It will pass. You are safe. We will begin before the town had a name, before signs, before shacks, before journals stuffed into backpack pockets and tucked under floorboards. There was a valley with a strange gravity. Not just the pull that keeps your shoes touching earth. Another kind. A tug on thoughts. A tug on maps. A tug on coincidence. As if the world leaned slightly inward here and let odd things roll downhill until they came to rest under the pines. You do not need to solve anything tonight. You do not need to decode. You do not need to race. We will take each part at a pace that lets you breathe. When the story swells, we will soften it. When the lights flicker, we will turn on a lamp. When the forest gets thick, we will find the path again, and if we do not, we will sit quietly and listen for the river until it leads us out. You may remember moments. A crooked gift shop sign that squeaks in the breeze. A pair of twins arriving with backpacks and a summer to fill. A secret door under a rug. A machine that hums. A wheel of symbols that looks like the face of a clock that tells a different kind of time. We will get there. We will not rush. Stories like this enjoy being told slowly. They like to be tucked in. Imagine a moth circling a porch light. Imagine its soft wings. That is how we will move around the details. We will circle gently. We will land, rest, and lift off again without panic. If you fall asleep, the story will keep going for you. It will make a bed out of pine needles and lay the next scene there, and when you wake up, the needles will still be soft and the scene will still be warm. Nothing will bite. Nothing will chase. Even the stranger things will be described the way you would describe a cloud to a child. Look, there is a shape. It looks like a boat. It looks like a door. It looks like a triangle smiling with one eye. And then the wind moves and the shape drifts away. So breathe in. Let your chest rise like a small hill. Breathe out. Let it fall like a small hill, too. Let the crickets tune themselves in the ditch along the road. Let the last car for the night pass and fade. Let the forest nod. We will tell the founding myths. We will meet 2 brothers before everything went sideways. We will watch a bright mind walk into a valley and strike a match inside a dark idea. We will see a friendly voice arrive in a dream. We will see why good maps use warning symbols. We will hold the journals at arm's length first, then closer. Then we will set them down on a desk and turn pages with care. When a moment grows loud, we will add distance. We will put it behind glass in a museum at night. We will read the plaque in a whisper. We will move to the next room. There is time for everything. Now listen. The pines are swaying. A small triangle of starlight has caught in the branches and is winking to itself. Not at you. Not for you. Just because stars do that when they get tangled in needles. We begin. A valley. A pull. A little town that will one day have a sign at the edge of the road. Welcome. Please drive carefully. Oddness ahead. The story opens its eyes. And the night is kind. Tonight you are carried. Tonight the woods are gentle. Tonight the whole canon will unfold like a map on a kitchen table at midnight, with a mug of tea leaving a perfect circle on the corner, and a pencil resting where the next line will go. The air cools. The porch light hums. We step to the edge of the oldest part of the tale. You can hear it breathe under the roots. Close your eyes if you like. The words will keep walking. They will be quiet. They will not startle you. And somewhere above the treetops, far away, a triangle made of light rotates once, slow as a lullaby. It will wait. It has time. Now let us go back to when the valley still had more shadows than names. The first ripple is about to move, and it will move like a feather on a pond. Long before the map makers, the valley had watchers. Not people yet. Not with hats or boots or ledgers. Watchers with moss on their backs. Watchers with eyes like amber. Watchers that slid between boulders without sound. They were not guarding anything. They were not threatening anything. They were simply present the way mountains are present. The way a compass needle is present. You could feel them if you stood very still until the blood in your ears matched the slow drum of the ground. At certain hours of the night, the sky above the valley looked like a spilled box of thumbtacks. Stars felt closer here, as if the air were thinner, as if the roof of the world drooped a little and brushed the ridgelines. The storm sometimes stalled over the peaks and spun in quiet circles without rain, like a pot trying to decide if it should boil. Under the soil, something like a seam of ore ran through the bedrock. Not gold, not silver. Something that made compasses stumble and cameras blink. Later, people would call the results anomalies. Earlier, the animals just knew to listen. If you had walked through the valley, then you might have found circles of stones where nothing grew. Not curses, not traps. Just places where the world had been pressed down more often than other places, as if someone or something kept pausing there and setting down a heavy thought. The circles were neat. The centers were smooth. In winter, the snow drifted differently on those spots, as if remembering a shape. One evening, a meteor scratched a long, slow line across the sky and flickered out behind the western ridge. Nothing burned. The night went on. But the old fir trees leaned a little, the way sleepers lean toward a whisper. They could not help it. The valley liked to listen. When people came, they came with stories the way travelers come with bread. They found the river first. They liked the way it spoke. They liked the way it cut the valley in a patient S and offered drink and fish and a place to set a hand while thinking. A child found a carved eye in the bark of a cedar. No one admitted to making it. No one could reach that high. They laughed and said the tree was only looking to see if the spring would be late. But the carving was clean. The triangle around the eye was steady. The sap had not bled much. Someone had made it with care, or something had. A small group mapped the trails. They tried to measure distance by steps, but many of them wrote different numbers in their notes for the same stretch. They thought it was tiredness. They thought it was the way the trail curved and confused the mind. They did not think the ground moved differently under their boots here. But sometimes it did, not by much. Just enough to fold a shortcut into yesterday so it took longer to get to the same place today. Nights by the fire, the stories began to take on a pattern. A strange light in the marsh that blinked back when you blinked at it. A set of hoofprints that began on bare stone. A voice in a dream that explained where to find the lost hammer. And there it was in the exact hollow it named. Not every night. Not every person. Just enough to become a thread in the town's first blanket of talk. They built small fences and big hopes. They made a place for a church bell, and when they rang it, the sound seemed to travel too far and then fall straight down as if the air had decided to return it. A child laughed. An old woman frowned and then smiled. Because what else can you do when sound itself plays tricks? Somebody started carving triangles into gateposts, not as a warning, but as a charm. Triangles feel steady. 3 sides sit well in the mind. They used them the way other towns used horseshoes. A friendly shape. Luck. Symmetry. They did not know they were aligning their doorways to a shape that liked being seen. On market days, a man with a deck of cards would tell fortunes. He did not cheat. He did not need to. In this valley, chance softened and slanted. If the card should have been a heart, sometimes it forgave itself and became one. People said the man was talented. He said the valley made his hands feel clear. There were chalk marks under bridges. There were simple ciphers scratched into school desk bottoms by bored students who wanted their initials to look like puzzles. There were canning labels with tiny eyes hidden in the filigree as if the printer had a private joke. None of it meant much. Each thing was small. Together they made a feeling. If you stood in the town square at noon and turned in a slow circle, you could sense a geometry you were not taught in class. It lived in the shade lines and roof angles and fence corners and stepped right past you with easy boots. When the fog came in thick, people were careful with names. They called each other by nicknames instead, not from fear, from politeness. Sometimes the fog brought echoes. Sometimes, if you said a full name, you heard it repeated, not by a person, but by the shape of the fog itself, and that made the hair on arms lift in a friendly way, like meeting a neighbor you could not see yet. A traveling preacher once told the town that symbols are doors. He said you should not draw doors you do not intend to open. He left after 2 nights. He said the valley felt like a house where many doors had been drawn in chalk long ago. He said some looked smudged, as if a thumb had tried the line. He tipped his hat and wished them a good harvest. They had one. A winter came when the river glassed over early and stayed. Children skated. The elders listened to the ice sing, those long wail-like notes that make a field sound like an organ in a cathedral. Someone swore they heard laughter under the ice. Not the mean kind, not the dangerous kind. Just laughter the way a creek laughs when it finds pebbles to play with. They told the story every year after that because it felt like the valley liked company. By the time real surveyors arrived with clean boots and metal instruments, the town had already decided to enjoy its quirks. The instruments quivered. The maps argued with themselves. A compass needle twitched once in a slow circle and then pointed not north, not south, but at a hill with a strange cut in its side, as if someone had taken one slice out and stopped. The surveyors wrote it down. The town shrugged. It had places to be. It had bread to bake. It had a bell to ring at dusk. Later, when family names layered the place like rings in a tree trunk, a small lodge decided that forgetting could be a kindness. They erased small hurts. They smoothed edges. They turned down the volume of the strangest nights for the sake of steady mornings. They meant well. They told themselves that if the valley had many doors drawn in chalk, maybe it was safer not to look at them every day. Maybe chalk should stay pale. Maybe the wind should be trusted to take a little away. But chalk wears thin even when you do not touch it. And doors you do not open sometimes learn to open when you are asleep. The myths stacked up like quilts in an attic. Triangle charms. Dream advice. A disappearing deer that turned into 11 crows and then back again when no one watched. Children did what children do. They made secret clubs and stuck a symbol on a tree and decided that meant they had power. It gave them a warm feeling. The valley liked that too. It likes when people believe their small signs matter, because they do. As the 19th century rolled its wagon wheels into the 20th, the town began to look more like itself. Signs with jokes, because jokes make fear get bored and go home. Old wood. New paint. A cemetery where the stones lean a little and read each other's names aloud at night in a whisper the living cannot hear. And on one gate, hardly noticed, a triangle with an eye carved neat. No one remembers carving it, but someone did. Or something. This is how a place gets ready for a story. It sets the table with ordinary cups. It folds a napkin just so. It places one extra chair without saying why. And in the cupboard, behind the flower, a blank journal waits. We have reached the part where people with names will step forward. They will bring curiosity like flint. They will strike it. They will make a spark that will light a path into a cave. Inside, a voice will say hello as if it has known them forever. The valley inhales. The river makes a soft S in its sleep. The bell rope sways without a hand. Someone is coming who will try to write everything down. And the ink will remember him. Before the shack. Before the hidden room. Before the journal pages filled up and were tucked into secret places, there were two boys on a shoreline with gulls arguing overhead in a summer that seemed to stretch for 10 years. Stan and Ford. They were twins, but not mirrors. They were two sides of a coin that kept landing on its edge. They fought sometimes. They laughed more. They made plans the way some kids make forts. Rig them up. Try them out. Fix the wobbly parts. Dream bigger. They grew in a town where boats mattered, and the horizon meant jobs and stories. Salt air lifts hair and lifts ideas, too. Ford's ideas liked to hover, then land precisely. Stan's ideas liked to sprint, stumble, and get up grinning with a better shortcut already in mind. There is a kind of loyalty that comes from starting out in the same crib and always needing to make room for another elbow. It is not fancy. It is not a speech. It is a habit. Pass the wrench. Share the sandwich. Look out for your other half when the world leans. They had a boat dream, not the glossy magazine kind. The patient, fix-it-yourself kind, boards with knots, a motor that coughed before it purred. Names scratched on the hull in pencil, then rubbed out, then chosen again. They wanted to leave the dock together and aim at a line where Sky knows sea by name and calls to it gently. Ford liked to tinker. He could not pass a broken thing without one to make it breathe again. He could not walk by a question without trying to peel it open. Teachers learned to enjoy or fear his hand going up. He did not ask for attention. He asked for clarity. He liked precision because precision is kindness to the future. It lets you find your way back. Stan liked to test the boundary rope, not to break rules for the glory of breaking them. To see if a rule was a chair you could stand on to change a light bulb or a wall you should respect because it kept the weather out. He learned people fast. He learned jokes faster. He became good at walking into a room and leaving it with everyone less worried than when he came in. They were differenter. And it worked until it didn't. Late nights, Ford would look at the sky and feel the steady pressure of questions pressing back. Why do compasses lie near some hills? Why do birds circle that one stretch of road without landing? Why do certain dreams feel like they are pointing? He wrote notes. He read books no one told him to read. He drew triangles in margins without thinking about it, the way a hand learns a shape before a brain explains it. Stan would look at the same sky and feel the steady pressure of wanting to take care of what was his. Family, plans, dignity. You learn early that the world can be rough in petty ways. You learn you can outcharm some of it, outwork most of it. And when neither works, you learn to stand your ground and wait for the punchline to find you and give you a hand up. Every pair of twins makes a pact, even if they never say it out loud. Ours. Together. We go or we don't. We win or we figure it out. We do not let the other be alone in the moment when the floor drops. They made that pact with their feet, shoulder to shoulder at the end of a dock, tossing a coin into the water and watching the ripples meet and turn into one ripple that went on and on. A scholarship letter came like a bright fish leaping out of dark water. Ford's name was on it. A door opened in a far city. Inside, there were labs and libraries and hands held out to say, "Come build something impossible, and then show us that it is not impossible after all." Stan smiled big. He was proud. He meant it. He said the right words, and most of the wrong ones too. He wrote plans around this new shape in their life. He would make money. He would make sure they had gas for both dreams, the big one and the bigger one. 2 boys, 2 paths, a dock between them that still smelled like cedar, still remembered their wet footprints from that day with the coin. If you listen to the quiet that lives inside family stories, you hear the same sound a lot. A hinge, just a small one. A door that swings more than anyone expects because the house settled funny. Their hinge moment was not a fight. Not first. It was friction that built up so gently you could pretend not to hear it. Then one day, the house sighed, and they both grabbed the frame and tried to hold it steady, and their hands brushed and missed. This is how you know a story loves its characters. It does not make them villains when they fail each other. It makes them human. It gives them time. It allows mistakes to be repaired, even if the repairs later get tested by storms bigger than anyone planned. Let the scene sit a moment. Two boys on the edge of their world. A letter. A boat under a tarp. A promise thick in the air. A public smile. A private ache that nobody meant to cause. If you are drifting towards sleep, that is all right. The ache is gentle here. It is a tide that moves the boat a little from the dock, but leaves the rope tied. It is important to know that the rope is still there, even if it goes tight in the next chapter. On a kitchen table, a postcard sits beside a stack of bills. On the back, in neat writing, Ford has circled a dot on a map west of where they grew up. He has written 3 words. Look at this. Stan sees it and laughs. He says, of course, you circled the weirdest dot on the whole page. He says, send me a picture when you get there. He says we will go together sometime when the seas and the cash and the calendars say yes. The postcard waits. The dot waits. The valley waits. And the rope on the dock creaks in a small wind, reminding everyone that knots can hold for a very long time. A campus is a kind of forest with brick trees and signpost birds. Ford moved through it like a careful scout, notebook ready, eyes bright, back straight. He found the rooms where questions lived and moved his chair close to them. He found the people who liked to stay late and keep peeling the onion of the universe until it made them cry in a happy way. He felt at home in the company of anyone who believed that mystery is an invitation, not a threat. He did not let go of the map with the circled dot. He kept it in a book, like a pressed leaf. He took it out when the lab lights buzzed and the city felt too loud and the horizon felt too flat. His finger would find that small westward mark, and his breath would slow, and his pencil would begin to draw ideas that bent around that dot the way iron filings bend around a magnet. Patterns. Every big discovery starts with a pattern you can almost feel with your eyes closed. Cadence and numbers. Repeats and noise. Corners where there should be curves. He built instruments, small and large, to test his hunch that the world did not lay perfectly still everywhere. In some places, maybe it wrinkled. He smiled at the thought. He liked wrinkled paper. It means someone used it. On a break, he traveled. He followed the map. He followed roads that turned to smaller roads, that turned to gravel, that turned to a path with grass in the middle, and 2 tracks where tires had remembered to be. He topped a rise and felt it as a small click behind the eyes. Here, there are places where the landscape seems to recognize a person, the way a dog recognizes footsteps on the porch and lifts its head before the door opens. The valley did that. Ford felt welcome and a little tested. The way you feel when someone good asks you to do your best and you want to say yes without trembling. He rented a small place with a stubborn door and a kind landlord. He set up a table. He drew a grid on the wall. He put pins where his instruments blinked more than they did in any other town he had ever visited. He walked the river. He wrote down oddities. He learned where the ground hummed when trucks were far away, and where it hummed when trucks were nowhere. The first time he dreamed of the triangle, it felt ordinary. Dreams are like that. They let the extraordinary come in through the side gate wearing a hat. "Hello," said the voice that belonged to the shape. Friendly. Awake. The kind of voice that knows the names of tools and likes them. "You look like someone who could use a hand." Ford was used to skepticism. He wore it like a good raincoat. Even in a dream, the raincoat stayed on. "What kind of hand?" he asked. "And why me?" The triangle laughed a little. Not cruelly. Not yet. Because you asked a question and kept it alive long enough to matter, the voice said. Because you stand where the ground wrinkles. Because you brought a pencil to a place most people bring a camera. He woke with a sharpness that felt like the first bite of an apple. He wrote it down because that is what he did. He did not tell anyone because that is also what he did. New ideas deserve quiet until they are strong enough to walk into a room and not be knocked over by the first doubt. Days passed. Instruments ticked and blinked. Birds argued. The porch step learned his weight. Night after night, the triangle returned, polite as a tutor with good shoes. It answered small questions with small answers and turned large questions into elegant diagrams that felt obvious once you saw them, the way good explanations do. It did not ask for anything yet. It simply offered. It remembered details Ford had not written down and put them back into his mind in a way that made him feel seen. This is how trust begins in many stories. Not with trumpets. With usefulness. A friend to your curiosity. A voice that seems to respect your goals and does not rush you. You can see why anyone would say yes to that voice. It is human to shake the hand that reaches out with the right tool. In the waking world, he drew a blueprint. He did not call it that at first. It was a sketch, then a set of notes, then a diagram that made his heart beat a little faster in a way he mistook for the usual spark of discovery. He pinned it to the wall. He made a small circle in the margin and wrote a single letter near it without noticing the way that letter leaned like a tiny triangle trying on a disguise. He walked to town sometimes. He bought coffee. He nodded to people who waved. He learned that the joke of the place was kindness, wearing a mask that looked like a prank. The mask made the kindness easier to accept. The triangle in his dreams chuckled at the same jokes, and then pointed at the ceiling and said, "Look, a crack." And Ford would see a pattern in the beams and feel lucky to have a guide. He began to write the first journal because his notes were multiplying like friendly rabbits and needed a fence. He chose a cover that could take scratches. He weighed the paper in his hand. He pressed the first page flat and smelled the dry cotton of it like a person smelling a baby's head. He wrote carefully. Headings, dates. Cautious words that did not brag because bragging makes future you feel silly if you were wrong. He glued small envelopes inside the cover to hold fragments. He pressed leaves in some pages and labeled them by the oddness of the tree, not the species. Leans toward north. Sap tastes bitter at noon. Sings at night when wind comes from east. The triangle complemented his system. So thorough, the voice said. So patient. It hummed when he wrote about the places where time felt draggy, like honey not quite warmed enough. It went quiet when he wrote the word limit. He noticed that only a little. He set a cup on the journal before sleep so the pages would not flip in the night. He dreamed of a wheel once, and just a chalk circle with symbols spaced around it like numbers that belonged to different clocks. He woke and wrote, "There may be an order here," and then hesitated because order is a promise you should not make too soon. He underlined May twice. The voice became braver, not pushy, braver. Have you ever wanted to see what is on the other side of the wrinkled places? It asked, as if asking whether he preferred tea or coffee. He said, of course. He said it the way climbers say of course when they are asked about the next ridge. He said it because a person built for questions knows that some door should be knocked on. The voice said it knew a way to make the door visible. That was all. It did not say open. It said visible, gentle, kind. He built small versions first. Models, safeguards. He put them together with care and with that special calm that visit inventors when their hands are doing exactly what their minds hoped they might do someday. The models hummed. They made shadows in the wrong direction sometimes. They made the air smell like pennies. They did not hurt anyone. They did not try. He took that as a good sign. On a ridge outside town, he found a place where standing still felt like standing in the doorway of a church. You do not have to believe anything in particular to feel that. Some places make your breath behave. He marked it on the map. He came back a different hour. He listened. He held his hand out and let his fingers tingle on purpose. The triangle was delighted. "You see it," the voice said. "You see it." Nights lengthened. The machine on paper became a frame in the basement of a not yet crooked shack. Bolts, cables, coils that like to sing the way the river sings when it gets narrow and then wide again. Safety switches. A big red button he promised himself he would never push alone. He thought of his brother. He thought of the dock and the coin. He thought of calling. Not yet, he told himself. Not until it is safer. Not until I can explain it in a way that will make him proud and not worried. He meant to be kind. Sometimes the kindest plans make the loneliest rooms. The triangle began to ask for little things. "Draw this symbol right there," it would say. Not bossy, just sure. He drew it. "Turn that dial a breath to the left," it would say. He turned it. "Do not tell anyone about this part," it would say. And he would look up sharply, and the shape would laugh softly and say, "Only for now. Surprises are sweeter when they work." He nodded. He was not foolish. He was focused. Focus can look like foolishness from the wrong angle. From the right angle, it looks like devotion. In the journal, the margins gathered symbols he did not remember deciding to draw. Triangles. Eyes. Lines that crossed and made new corners that were pleasing to the hand. He felt the deep satisfaction of a puzzle being arranged before the final snap. He slept less. He ate enough. He took long walks to steady his thinking, because thinking needs air like fire does. He told himself that the ordinary pieces of life are the ballast that keeps a big idea from tipping your boat. On one of those walks, he paused by a cedar with an old carving. A triangle with an eye. He smiled without meaning to. He put his palm against the trunk and felt the faintest thrum, as if the tree remembered being marked, and had learned to purr there, the way cats purr where fingers always scratch. He did not think of doors. He thought of patterns. Patterns were his first language. They speak softly and never shout. The first journal closed itself at last, fat with notes. He labeled the spine with a small number and a letter code only he would understand. He started a second book the way you start a second life without realizing the first has just ended. False starts. Better diagrams. Clearer cautions. The voice praised his caution. The voice did not mind caution. Caution makes good bridges. Bridges are how you cross to the other side. If you are sleepy now, this is a good place to drift. Listen to the pleasant clicking of tools set down on a bench. Listen to the low hum of a coil that is not dangerous yet. Listen to pencil on paper. The triangle speaks, but far away. The words blur into the sound of the river. All that matters is that a curious man in a quiet town is drawing near to a threshold. He believes he is the one who decided where it is and what it does. He is partly right. That is how most doors are made, half by the maker, half by the need. Above the shack, the pines lift their arms and let the stars filter through, grain by grain. In the space between those grains, a small shape turns once, like a coin catching light before it lands. It smiles. Not for you. Not yet. For itself. For the elegance of plans that take their time. And in the basement, a blueprint leans against a wall and casts a shadow that looks, for just a second, like an eye-opening. Soon the journals will earn their numbers. Soon the switch will earn its click. Soon a friendly voice will ask for something in return. But not yet. For now there is the good work of a mind in motion. For now there is the valley breathing with him. For now there is the chalk circle on a floor that will not be a door until someone draws the last line. Sleep a little if you want. When you wake, the pencil will still be in his hand. And the triangle will still be in the dark behind his eyes, waiting for the next question to open like a window. Begin with a light on a workbench. A single bulb, a calm circle, a notebook open inside it. Outside, the pines lean together like old friends sharing a quiet secret. Inside, a mind and a voice take turns drawing lines. In dreams, the triangle arrives without footsteps. It does not need any. It comes like a thought you meant to have anyway. Let me save you some time, it says, warm as a desk lamp. Let me show you what the pattern is trying to be. Ford, careful even while asleep, keeps his pencil in the picture. He asks good questions. He tests the answers when morning comes. And morning, oddly, agrees. Dial a breath to the left. Swap the coil. Rerun the field test on the ridge where the air tastes metallic at noon and sweet at dusk. Small adjustments behave like keys tried in the right lock. He knows the delight of progress. He also knows the discipline of keeping it quiet until it is strong. The voice praises his discipline and never hurries him. It never scolds. It makes being brilliant feel easier than being ordinary. And like all good teachers, like all persuasive strangers, it trades on that comfort. I am only a guest, the dream says. Your house, your rules. But guests can rearrange rooms. One chair a little closer to the window, one clock set a little slow. Kindness can be a lever. The workshop gathers instruments the way a creek gathers pebbles. Handmade coils. Meters that prefer to speak in needles. A chalk circle on the floor that stops being a doodle and starts being a habit. He moves through the steps with the clean economy of a surgeon. Measure, log, adjust, breathe. Eat a sandwich with one hand, scribble with the other. Laugh softly when two numbers finally stop arguing and agree. In daylight, he names everything. Naming is how you keep your footing. The ridge is Station A. The humming culvert on the North Road is Node 3. The scrap pile that produces useful parts with suspicious timing is called the luck heap. He catalogs oddities. He measures their moods. He learns the valley's schedule, the hour when fog likes to watch the river, the hour when birds gather in threes for reasons only they understand. In dreams, the triangle names nothing. It prefers gestures. Here, this, there. As if the world were so obvious that mouths would only slow it down. Ford notices. He files it. He moves on. A person building a bridge cannot freeze at every creek. You cross by faith in lumber and in math. The first time the floor hums under his boots, he almost says thank you out loud. Not to the voice, to the process. To the long trudge of testing that finally compresses into a precise click. The frame in the basement becomes a shape that knows its own name even if it is not ready to say it. Doors, The triangle murmurs one night, amused as if speaking to a child who just learned about windows. We call them doors. You call them thresholds or portals or opportunities. Same chore, different choreographer. Ford wakes with a smile and writes, "If a boundary can be located, it can be described. If it can be described, it can be negotiated." He underlines negotiated. He likes that word better than broken. It honors what is on both sides. There are rules. He writes them in a steady hand. Record before you reach. Calibrate before you court risk. Never power the frame without a second mind present. Outcomes must be reversible until they are understood. The voice applauds. Prudent, it purrs. Prudent keeps pioneers alive. It is easy to trust praise that uses your favorite words. He crafts a language for the device. A tidy stack of concepts. Anchor, locus, phase, bleed, brush, draw, bind. He makes little cards with definitions and pins them above the bench. He rearranges the verbs when the experiments teach him new manners. This one wants gentleness. This one wants momentum. This one refuses all verbs until night. He obliges. Patience is a kind of courtship. On some evenings, he walks the town. He buys a battery. He borrows a wrench. He listens to a fisherman tell a story about how the river once flowed the wrong way for 1 hour and then decided not to. He files that story too. A river that can rehearse its own history might help test a theory about which direction is truly forward. On some mornings, letters arrive with old life stamped in the corner. A brother's jokes, posted like a rope thrown across distance. Ford answers with care. He misstates none of the love and all of the danger. He vows to share the work when the work is safer. He vows to bring the dock dream forward when the map stops wrinkling under his pencil. Vows pile like lumber in a clean stack. They will be sturdy later. They will bear weight. He begins to draw symbols where the voice suggests. Not because he believes in symbols as magic, because he believes in notation. If a coil works better aligned to a mark, what difference does the shape make? Triangles are steady. Circles make nice homes for numbers. Eyes. Well, eyes are just ovals with intent. It is only chalk. It is only paint. A chessboard cares little for which end of the rook you hold when you move it. But the board remembers the game after you put it away. The voice asks, very lightly, for privacy around certain parts of the design. Not a secret. Just a surprise, it says, teasing, as if they were planning a birthday party for the future. Ford feels the pull between best practices and clean momentum. He resolves it by allowing the smallest of veils. He will document in full later. Later is when you organize everything. Now is when you keep the spark alive. He dreams rarely of faces. When he does, the triangle borrows one. Not to frighten, to charm. A tilt of the hat, a wink. He wakes and writes, Entity employs anthropic interface, and puts 2 boxes beside it, helpful, harmful. He leaves them both unchecked. It is not science if the boxes are inked before the data arrive. By now, Journal 1 is almost full, dressed in red strings and paper edges and the faint scent of graphite that comes when paper has agreed to become a field. He starts Journal 2 on a day when the fog hangs low and makes the world feel modest. Modest is good on days when you risk doing something immodest to the fabric of things. He takes off his shoes before stepping on the chalk circle, like a guest in a careful house. Late in 78, the ridge goes quiet for 2 weeks. Birds relocate. His barometer remembers a different childhood. He sits on a stump and listens to absence until it points like a finger made of nothing. He follows that finger to a small ravine where the rocks look relieved to be noticed. He lays a hand there and feels the soft, friendly dread of standing too near a cliff in the dark. Not fear. Respected scale. Here, the triangle sings, pleased. Here is where your map wants to tell the truth. He marks it with a neat flag. He thanks the ridge aloud. He thanks the rocks, too. Rocks are old. They like to be included. He powers the frame with a whisper. Just enough to make the air lean in. Enough to learn its posture. Enough to see the dust motes arrange themselves in a diagram of mood. It almost behaves. He almost relaxes. Almost is not a mistake. Almost is a good teacher. He writes a new rule. Be most suspicious when a tool behaves like a friend. The voice claps. So wise, it says. And yet, who could be more of a friend to discovery than a door? It laughs lightly, the way a breeze laughs in chimes. He files the sound. He sleeps a little less. He double-checks bolts before the dreams arrive. Apprenticeship is a true word here, inconvenient as it is. He has learned from the triangle. He has allowed it to shape his methods, if not his morals. He has borrowed its confidence the way hikers borrow a walking stick, with no intention of keeping it, with full intention of moving farther today than yesterday. And far is closer. The basement glows at the edges when he leaves the light on by accident. The valley hums to match. Night birds adjust their songs to the new note and somehow improve them. On the last day of 79, he writes these sentences in a hand that does not quite look like his. The frame is nearly coherent. Coupling grows stable under specific symbolic conditions. Assistance remains essential and unquantified. Entity's motives unreadable, utility high. He draws a small eye, very neat, like a period that got promoted. And upstairs, a cup cools on a table. A photograph turns face down in a draft, and a promise across the years stirs in its sleep, feeling a change in the weather. The calm between this year and the next is a shallow breath. The next inhale will be deep, and the exhale after that will carry a man farther than he planned to go. Turn the page. Slowly. Set a palm on it first to warm it, as if paper were skin and nerves lived in the dry cotton. Journal 1 closes with the dignity of a book that did its job. Journal 2 opens with hands that know what they are doing. It is less tentative, more precise. It holds drawings that do not apologize for being ambitious. It holds warnings written like lullabies, soft in tone, hard in shape. Ford constructs a vocabulary for the thresholds. He grades them like teachers grade essays. A, strong. B, promising. C, easily distracted by weather. D, mysterious. F, familiar, false, forget. He maps them to hours and seasons. Some are morning students, bright and eager. Some bloom only at 3 in the morning and scowl at any sun put near them. He respects their preferences. Respect builds bridges, too. A wall grows in the basement, not out of brick, but out of intent. Metal struts. A circular frame that wants to be an oval and then remembers its manners and calms into a circle. Cables that hang with a poise you see in pictures of strong ropes on clean ships. The device earns a name in his notes, Array. Not portal yet. Not door. Array. Polite. Accurate. A net for reefs, not visible yet. At the bench, there is a new stack of note cards labeled Tests that must not proceed. He reads that stack before each day's work, the way some people read a prayer. The voice, never interrupts this ritual. It waits. It hums softly in agreement. Agreement is a useful solvent. Journal 3 begins without fanfare. It begins because there are too many loose papers, too many side thoughts, too many names for the same glow. He intends it as a field book, on-the-ground notes, quick sketches, hints jotted between interruptions. He promises himself to keep Journal 2 for theory and Journal 1 as archive. He keeps the promise, mostly. Work has a way of spilling. In entries that smell faintly of pine pitch, he writes, certain symbols stabilize, others provoke drift. I sign performs dual role, coherence and invitation, must isolate effect. He underlines isolate. He circles invitation. He writes no beside it, then crosses out the no, then draws a question mark and boxes it like a moth he intends to release after studying its wings. The valley contributes. It always has. It adds a weather pattern that was not on any forecast. It introduces the sound of wind chimes on days when no wind visits. It produces a sparrow that flutters into the basement, perches on the rim of the array, cocks its head, and sings exactly 3 notes in a row that Ford hears again that night in a dream as the triangle points at the chalk and says, there, there, there. He almost laughs at the neatness of it. He almost says thank you to the bird. He does not, because the part of him that mistrusts neatness has grown bolder. He hears about a society in town that helps people forget what hurts too much to hold. He does not attend a meeting. He approves, privately, of the kindness baked into the idea. He disapproves, professionally, of what forgetting does to the record. Then he reminds himself that his journals are not the town's ledger. He does his remembering so other people may rest. There is a night when the array sings like a wine glass. He did not intend that. The pitch is almost kind. He adjusts the coil, and the note drops by a perfect step, and without meaning to, he hums along. He makes a note. Resonance is not noise, it is appetite. He builds fail-safes. He builds redundancies for the fail-safes. He puts the cutoff where his left hand can find it blind. He labels it twice. He practices shutting it down with his eyes closed until the motion is a reflex that does not need a mind to supervise. The triangle begins to tire of the carefulness. Not impatient. Impatient would be rude. Amused. There is a difference. Genius, it whispers, is not a door that opens from only one side. Sometimes you must allow the other side to turn the handle. He nods because, yes, that is what thresholds are for. 2 sides, 1 polite agreement, to meet in the middle with everyone's corners rounded. He dreams of a wheel again. This time the symbols shine. This time there is weight to their arrangement. He wakes with a start and writes down what he can. A pine tree, a glass, a question mark, a heart, a llama, a shooting star, a bag of ice, a stitched cap, a 6-fingered hand, and 3 more glyphs he cannot quite pull to the surface of the morning. He sketches the circle and leaves 12 places for 12 neighbors. He is not ready to call them necessary. He writes neighbors instead. Language matters. Language keeps engineers from turning into priests. The array reaches a day when it must be tested with real power. Stan is not there. That is not the mistake. The mistake, if the story demands one, is older and gentler. The mistake is believing that thoroughness neutralizes motive. It often does. Not always. He sets the parameters like a surgeon setting clamps. He checks pressure. He checks phase. He touches the chalk circle with his heel, lightly, and makes sure it still feels like chalk under shoe rubber, and not like something carved deeper than tile. He breathes. He energizes. The air does not explode. It coheres. It pours toward the frame like water finally understanding which way is downhill. Dust becomes constellation. Light threads gather and decide to be fabric. A shape appears that is not a picture, but a suggestion of depth, like seeing a lake through a doorway when you expected a closet. Beautiful, the voice says. And for the first time, the word feels wrong in his ears. He sees the whisper of other places. He sees angles that make sense only while he looks at them. He feels the slight tug of a polite hand on his sleeve, as if someone is asking him to step closer to hear a joke told softly. He does not step. He holds his ground. Even polite hands can lead you off a curb in the dark. Something watches back. He writes that sentence later, and the ink looks like it shook while he wrote it, even though his hand did not. Something watched back. Not hostile. Not friendly. Aware. Awareness is the loudest thing in a room when you thought you were alone. He shuts the array down. He does so cleanly. He logs the time. He logs the mood. He sits on the bottom step and lets his heartbeat count backward from whatever number it chose. He places the pencil on the bench with the respect you give a tool that just helped you put a toe over a line and then get it back again. In dreams that week, the triangle is theatrical. Curtains, even. Ridiculous. It tells him stories about what lives on the other side of wrinkles. Knowledge that can save cities from their worst ideas. Blueprints that correct their own errors. Mirrors that do not lie because they lack the energy for small talk. He enjoys the show. He applauds. He values the information contained in the theatrics. He does not forget to stand at a slight angle to the stage. He adds locks to the basement door. He adds a layer of chalk that was not suggested. He draws his own symbol in the corner of the circle, a small, quiet mark that means mine. He cannot prove such things matter. He lets the superstition live anyway. Engineers keep lucky pennies, too. The day it all tips is not loud. It is a conversation with his brother carried by currents that were not ready for two currents meeting. Words about money and pride and boats and brains. Words about love spoken in the dialect of accusation. A hand touches a control. A switch moves because switches like to fulfill their design. The array obeys. It obeys perfectly. It opens its chore with the grace of a dancer arriving at the exact center of a stage and lifting her arms. Light does not so much burst as reach. It makes of space a smoothie. Everything blended, nothing lost. All of it a new texture that mouths cannot describe on first sip. There is a shape where Ford stands. Then there is a memory of where Ford stood. Then there is a draft where a person was, and chalk that thinks about glowing, and a bench with a pencil, rolling slowly toward the edge and deciding, kindly, not to fall. Silence is heavy after that. Silence has bones. It sits on the stairs with the remaining brother and lets grief find a place to sit that will not splinter under it. Journal 2 receives a final entry in a hand that shakes openly this time. Catastrophic success. Array unity achieved. Subject transported. Containment failed. Addendum. I am not done. Journal 3 becomes a lifeline. It becomes the voice of someone who refuses to let an error have the last word. It becomes a study of everything still here that knows something about what is gone. The town notices almost nothing. That is not negligence. That is the way life continues. The bell still marks the hour. The diner still puts out pie. The river still argues with rocks and wins by rounding them into agreement very slowly. The basement learns a new word, empty. The house above it learns a new resident, a man with a hat who hides the hurt in jokes, who covers machines with tarps, who speaks to a picture frame and then turns it face down so the picture can sleep too. The frame does not sleep. Frames do not. They wait. They hold their shape, faithful to their last assignment. They do not move themselves and they do not mourn. And at a distance that is measured in angles rather than miles, a triangle reclines in a place where directions applaud themselves for being clever and laughs gently because this too is part of the chore it choreographed. The chalk circle dries. The house settles. A brother breathes. He will not stop. He will build a new life out of sawdust and scams and secret steps and a vow that will keep his nights busy for 3 long decades. But first, the house must learn how the lights turn on in the morning without someone who knew all the switches by heart. The journals close their covers. For now. And upstairs, a clock that ran a little slow all winter decides to be right. Just once. Exactly when the sun's edge catches the rim of a coffee cup and turns it into a small ring of fire that does not burn. The story exhales. Only a little. Only enough to let you sleep through the change of seasons that follows. The sign out front sighs in its chains. The letters glow just enough to let moths know where to dance. Inside, the gift shop still smells like pine, dust, and jokes. Shelves hold rubber chickens with dignified patience. Snow globes rest with storms waiting that will never be shaken tonight. Postcards lean against each other like tired tourists sharing a bench. Behind the register, a ledger lies open on a page half filled with numbers that mean more than they look like they mean. In the corner, a lamp is on because some houses do better with one light always left awake. Down the hall, an office chair stands like a sentinel. A fez hangs on a hook. A photograph faces the wall. Not in anger, in mercy. Beneath the rug, a door pretends to be floor. It does a good job. If you did not know, you would never know. If you do know, the pretending is kind. Pretending is rest. In the basement, tarps settle over shapes that are too tired to be threatening. Cables coil like snakes that decided not to bite and fell asleep in the sun. On a bench, a pencil points at nothing in particular, ready to serve again when asked. The shack sleeps with one ear open. Like a dog that has chosen its family and does not intend to let anyone get past the porch without permission. Outside, the pines make the old good sound they make when wind moves through them like a tune known by heart. If you are drifting, drift. The house will keep watch. It has made a promise. And upstairs, a man who looks like trouble and is actually loyal to a fault turns onto his side and says a brother's name barely louder than the tick of the clock. The town breathes. The night keeps its half of the bargain. Soon a summer will begin. But not yet. Sleep, house. Sleep, sign. Sleep, joke boxes. Sleep, snow. In the morning, the man puts on a voice that fits him like a suit. Loud enough to be heard. Light enough to be friendly. Distracting enough to keep questions from sniffing around the rug. He is Stanley Pines, and the world has taught him to keep moving. If one doc says no, find another. If one door closes, sell the door a doormat and ask it for a referral. He arrives at the house not meant for him and refuses to leave because leaving would be a kind of agreement he does not accept. This is not pride, though there is pride in it. It is devotion, with its sleeves rolled up. He knows what he did, and what he didn't, and what he should have, and what he would have if the past had been kinder and his temper shorter. None of that matters now as much as the one fact that does. His brother is gone, and he is not going to let gone be the same as forever. He renames a home. He points at rooms and says, exhibit. He points at oddities in the shed and says, mystery. He points at a cash register and says, hope. But to the register, he uses a different word, float. A place needs money to stay a place. Love pays some bills. Hustle pays the rest. He is good at the hustle and better at the love. He hires a kid who can fix a toaster with a smile and calls him family before anyone else will. He gives himself a uniform, all hats and patter, because uniforms keep your heart from showing too much when the day asks for 1,000 little deceptions that are, when you add them up, a single large kindness. Let visitors buy a laugh and leave lighter than they came. At night, the tarps come off, the jokes go quiet. The man who made a museum of nonsense returns to the work that is dead serious. He teaches himself a new language by reverse engineering every note and cable and patent-pending thought the basement whispers from old metal. There are books he does not understand yet. He learns them. There are math steps he resented once. He climbs them now like stairs back to a window where a light still burns. He fails often. He fails forward. He learns which failures deserve a toast and which deserve a rewrite. In town, people accept him. Not entirely. Enough. Acceptance in a place like this comes in the form of tolerating your signs, buying your postcards, and letting you borrow a ladder when you ask without making you explain why you need it after 10 p.m. He builds a persona like a shed over a womb. He hangs souvenirs on it. He screws in lights. He sands the edges so no one cuts a hand walking by. He tells lies that make the truth easier to carry. He tells the truth almost never. And when he does, no one believes him, because he chose a life in which the truth is the least profitable product on the shelf. He counts days and pages and dollars and calibrations. He makes a long list titled, If I Get Him Back. It includes arguments to finish. It includes a boat ride to begin. It includes silence to be kept like an oath for a week straight, so each brother can listen to the other breathe without making the mistake of talking too soon. Years line up. Children grow tall and then leave in cars. The river wears another layer of patience onto the rocks. The diner runs two owners through and stays the same in all the ways that matter. Coffee that forgives, pie that forgives faster. The shack survives inspections by making the inspector laugh. It survives storms by letting the sign lean into the wind and laugh too. It survives lean winters by selling mystery in bulk to people who needed it and did not know until they saw it on a shelf beside a jar of waxed bugs and a magnet shaped like a local legend. Underneath, power supplies hum. Underneath, switches wait. Underneath, a man counts not sheep, but steps to a day that must be earned with skill and with luck and with stubbornness, so thick you could use it to patch a boat. He is not alone, not quite. The town is a net. A tall girl with a warm grin helps when a ladder is needed. A handyman becomes a son. A pig eventually becomes someone's day made better. A gnome colony tries to become a wife and teaches everyone the value of polite refusals learned early. He becomes accidentally a local landmark. People take pictures with a plywood cutout of his face. He leans into it. Lean into the thing that keeps the lights on. Lean into the thing that builds the runway for the thing that really matters. Late at night, when the old radios shush their own static and listen, he stands on the basement steps and talks to the house. He says he is sorry. He says he is not sorry. He says he will make it right. He says the only prayer he knows, work, work, work. On a particular winter, snow packs so solid against the door that he considers sleeping downstairs for a week. He does, because the calculations are hot and the room is warm, and because stairs at 3 a.m. in socks are their own kind of portal. He eats from a can, laughs at himself, and keeps going. On a particular summer, tourists thin and the budget tightens, and he pulls off a promotion so shameless and so effective that he almost forgives himself for the parts he cannot forgive yet. 3 decades are a blink in a town that counts its age in map wrinkles. They are a life in the body of a man who lifts each year and keeps working. And in the June of a year where all the ledgers finally line up in a way that looks like a gift, 2 kids with backpacks step off a bus and look at the sign and at each other and at the man, and the story remembers how to begin again. The tarps will move more often now. The basement will have a company. The house will be noisier and lighter and will smell like crafts and glitter and adventure and sweat and bubble gum. The path from here to rescue and ruin and rescue again will be exactly as straight as the town allows. But first, Summer must put its hand on the doorknob and turn it softly. The bus drops its sigh and pulls away, and the dust lifts its hat. Dipper and Mabel face the Mystery Shack with a combination of skepticism and delight that makes the porch boards feel younger under their shoes. It is the kind of afternoon that forgives a long ride. Sun that does not brag. Clouds polite enough to look like shapes without insisting you guess them. Pines whispering the valley's usual welcome. Listen, and we will teach you how to notice. Mabel goes first, because Mabel often does. Her joy has momentum. Her sweater announces that joy in colors the house has never had inside it before. The house approves. Houses like color. Houses that have learned to hold grief especially like it. Dipper follows with a wary excitement that books tend to admire. He has the reflexive curiosity of a person who would rather be given a map than a mystery and will, in the absence of maps, make excellent rough drafts. He is ready to be wrong as long as being wrong leads to the right questions. Stan greets them with a grin, like a billboard that insists on the product, and a hug like a man who needs reminding that family fits, even now, even still. Jokes land. A chore chart appears. A room smells like cedar and sunscreen and something green. The summer begins the way good summers do, with a task, a promise of pay, and a door that sticks on humid days. Dipper finds Journal 3 as if the town reached out a hand and slipped it into his. He does not know that yet. He only knows a shape on the ground, a board that feels wrong, a hiding place behaving like it was impatient for company. The book is heavy in the best way. It carries more gravity than its size. He opens it and is introduced to a voice written in neat lines that understood the difference between wonder and alarm. The first pages are a lullaby for a certain kind of mind, diagrams drawn by someone who wanted the next person to be safe. Warnings in language that does not shout. Sketches of local oddities offered like neighbors. This one blinks slowly. This one pretends to be moss. This one will try to sell you something you already own. He reads under a tree until the light reminds him of dinner. He tucks the book close. He returns to the shack new, though no one can see it yet. A person carrying a good secret has a slightly different silhouette. The back straightens. The chin thinks. The eyes learn to do two jobs at once: greet and watch. Mabel greets her first adventure with arms open. It happens to be several gnomes trying to be one boyfriend. She handles this with the aplomb of someone who has always known that love, like everything else, is better with clarity and a little confetti. There is a chase. There is a lesson. There is a sweater that survives everything it must survive. Stan sells a tour with extra thunder in his voice because the room is full and laughter echoes well today. Suze becomes a friend by offering exactly the right amount of help at exactly the right moments. The amount measured not in tasks completed, but in burdens lightened. Wendy leans against the counter and lets competence be cool without saying a word. The first week is a basket of small victories. The kind that make a place begin to feel like yours. A locker that opens without jamming. A label made with care. A path through the woods that you swear gets straighter every time, even though compasses here cannot be trusted to be entirely professional. Dipper tests the book. The book passes. He learns the discipline of trusting a warning without needing the thrill of confirming it personally. He also learns where to push, because boundaries that cannot be pushed a little are more wall than fence, and fences are meant to be sat on sometimes to watch the sunset. Each night, the twins compare notes. Mabel's come in colors, animated by hands and sound effects. Dipper's arrive like field reports, excited but tidy. They fit together like this town fits its map, off by just enough to be interesting, right by just enough to be home. In the basement, something old stirs because upstairs something new has begun. Stirring does not always mean danger. Sometimes it means attention. The house is paying it. The journals notice without moving. The chalk under the rug remembers faintly what chalk is for. But no doors open. Not yet. Day 5. Rain taps on the windows like an idea too polite to insist. The shack smells like dust that decided to become a story. Dipper sits with the journal and a pencil and copies his cipher just to have it under his skin. Mabel knits a tiny hat for a lawn ornament because it looks cold. Stan tells the twins a loud, false story and slides, with the grace of a man who has done this before, one true sentence into the mix to see if anyone notices. They do, but they misfile it. This is all right. Some truths need to wait until their coats match the season. At the edge of town, near the spine of the ridge that knows the old numbers by heart, a wind passes over a place that once sang and almost sings again. Almost. Almost is honest. The first week ends with tired feet and an expanded sense of what the words we and here can hold. And as sleep comes, the town wraps itself like a blanket around the small house full of older problems and newer joys and says, without saying, welcome. Beyond sleep, in a place where directions are more like moods, a triangle turns once, amused. It is patient. It has learned patience from watching towns that outlast their own stories. It will be called when chalk remembers its duty. It will answer as it always has. But first, children, summer, laughter, small monsters, lessons, pie, a journal that wanted so badly to be found that the floor arranged itself to make sure it would be. Breathe. We are moving toward the next hill, and we will climb it gently. 8. Patterns, codes, and blind eyes. Week 2. Morning opens like a quiet book. Pages of pine. Margins of mist. A town that speaks in little puzzles if you listen long enough. Dipper begins to notice what the journal trained him to see. Not just monsters and maybes. Patterns. The way a sign's shadow lands at noon. The way a fence knot repeats the same mistake 3 posts in a row. The way the bell rings, and a heartbeat later, a crow answers like punctuation. Codes live everywhere and gravity falls. Not the kind that shout. The kind that barely wave. A backwards word on a flyer that tells you where a secret club meets. A letter missing from every menu item that, if you collect them, spells a warning kinder than it sounds. A cipher tucked in the end frames of local TV. Like a bedtime story told to the handful of eyes that notice. Dipper copies them at a table, on the porch, flat on the floor with a pencil between his teeth and a notebook open like a map he's finally ready to drive. He learns that some answers do not arrive with fireworks. They arrive like a small light turning on in a shed. Practical, warm, just enough. Mabel codes too without calling it coding. She choreographs kindness. She stitches jokes into sweaters so a bad day can unspool them and feel better. She reads a room and leaves a note only the room can read. 2 systems, same spirit, a twin language. The journal begins to feel like a second heartbeat. It taps when the town taps. It hushes when the woods hush. In its pages, Dipper meets a quiet, exact mind that didn't just witness weirdness, it measured it, and left breadcrumbs for the next walker. One breadcrumb points to an old building with a careful door. A meeting place. A projector room that smells like dust and lost-found boxes. On a screen, a movie plays for a small circle of people with gentle eyes. They wear a symbol stitched where a heart sits, a closed lid, a blind eye. They are not villains. They are tired. They keep the town safe the way you keep a story safe, by trimming the parts that keep you awake too long. They believe forgetting is a blanket. They offer it to anyone shivering. There is a machine. It hums like a hive that means well. Memories poured into it come out quieter, softer, blurred at the corners. People who step out of that room touch their foreheads as if a tight knot just loosened. They smile, relieved, missing the ache they had, missing a little more than that. Dipper watches. Mabel watches. They are careful with their conclusions. This is not evil. This is furniture arranged against a draft. But drafts teach you about weather. If you block every breeze, you forget which way the wind used to come from. Then one day the roof complains and you cannot remember where the squeak began. The projector clacks through reels of the town's stolen shadows. Faces on the screen repeat, younger and younger, each time with the same pause. I don't remember. A man with oil under his nails appears often. Kind eyes, hands built to fix. Every few weeks he becomes new again, like the town cannot bear the full brightness of his knowing and keeps dimming the lamp. Mabel takes Dipper's hand. They do not want to make enemies of people doing their best. They want to give their best a different job, remembering, even the sharp parts. They talk to the man, softly. Not all at once. The screw turned a quarter turn. A truth shared like a cookie, half now, half later. He blinks, and in his eyes you can almost see shelves where boxes were stacked badly for years, and he starts to restack them, heavier down low, labels facing out, taking breaks, drinking water. When the club discovers its own history, pain arrives in manageable slices. A gasp, a seat, a hand squeezed. Tears that do not flood the room, just water the floor enough to grow something honest there. The machine's humming slows. The projector clicks into silence. The blind eye opens, not to stare, not to shame, just to see. Some memories are too hot to hold all day. You can set them down sometimes, but you must know where you put them and why. The twins step back into the evening like divers surfacing. Air tastes new when you come up with it on purpose. Crickets tune. Windows glow. The town, newly awake to itself, yawns and stretches, bones popping in that good way. Somewhere beyond, Bill smiles at the sight of gaps. Blank spaces are good places for mischief to grow, but there are fewer blanks tonight. The chalk lines in the town's mind have been redrawn, thicker. Bill hates a thick line, but he is patient. Patience is mischief's favorite pillow. Back in the shack, Dipper writes a new rule on the inside cover. Remembering is a kind of ward. Mabel writes one too under it in bubble letters. Also hugs. Both work, usually together. And when the lamps go out, the house breathes like a sleeping animal that knows its name and answers to it happily. Daylight through lace curtains, glitter on a table. A chalk circle drawn not as a dare, but as a hug. Stan lets them borrow the shack for a ritual that sounds scarier than it is. Protection. It only means let kindness wear shoes. Unicorn hair. Salt. A whispered rhyme that belongs to nobody and therefore to anyone who needs it. They place threads above doorways. They line windows with phrases like, "No thank you," and "not today," and "please knock." Out in the trees, something old rolls its eyes and pretends not to respect the craft. But doors close more gently afterward. Drafts behave. Dreams arrive with better manners. Bill does not enjoy being told, "Come back later." That is precisely why you should practice saying it. The shack glows a fraction warmer. Not brighter. Warmer. Even the jars of fake eyeballs on the shelf look friendlier, which is a sentence the shack is proud to hear. They blow out the last candle. Nobody is spooked. A ward is not a wall. It is a welcome mat with a message. Wipe your feet. The days lean. Late summer heat makes clocks slow, and milkshakes taste like they always should. Beneath the idle afternoons, gears engage. Stan has been dreaming in math for years. Numbers hum behind his eyes when he carries boxes or flips the sign to open or tells a joke twice on purpose. The hum grows louder. Downstairs, the covered shape of a machine looks less like a ghost and more like a promise that refuses to be late forever. Upstairs, the twins collect small victories. Mabel befriends everything that isn't nailed down. Dipper befriends a few things that are. They learn to speak fluent Sue's. They learn that Wendy's laugh can neutralize a whole day's worry in one sound. Nights turn longer by minutes. In those minutes, dreams knock with 2 knuckles instead of 1. Bill visits, sweet as a sales pitch, cool as river shade. "Kid," he says, "you got the look, the whole detective thing. Wouldn't it be nice if the clues solved themselves for once?" Dipper wakes and writes, "No shortcuts," in big, honest letters. Not because he is a hero. Because he knows answers taste better when earned slowly like pie cooling on a sill. A strange weather front skims the ridge. Not rain. Not wind. A pressure change like the sky remembered an old debt and sighed. The town looks up, then goes on. You cannot panic every time a cloud thinks too hard. Stan's machine reaches all its mornings. The schedule he built in secret meets the calendar's sweetest square. He sets dials by habit and by memory and by love. He is not alone when the hum begins. The house understands. That is almost a person. And then return. A figure steps out of impossible arithmetic. Floor. Light. Breath. Forward. Silence first. Then the upstairs world makes sounds again. Chairs, feet, names, said with all the years inside. Reunion is not an explosion. It is a stitch pulled back through fabric you were sure would never align again. There is joy. There is gratitude. There is an old argument tightening its muscles in the corner, because old arguments stretch when they smell morning. They will need to be put on a leash. Ford brings stories braided out of math and caution. He looks at the journal in Dipper's hands and the careful questions in his eyes and answers with the precision of a man who remembers how astonishing curiosity can feel before it learns the cost of some doors. He names the triangle out loud. Bill. He says it like a surgeon says scalpel, not scared of the thing, but respectful of what happens when you hold it wrong. He explains that dreams can be hallways you do not want to mop for strangers. He shows the shack where to put more chalk. Dipper feels both proud and small. That is what happens when a hero enters your cozy story. Scale changes. The trick is not to shrink. It is to stand where you stood and keep your job. Notice, learn, be kind, be brave. Carry the sweater when it is too hot to wear it, and someone will need it at dusk. Stan smiles big and hides worry even bigger. He has waited decades for this day. Now his house has two hearts again, and both are too smart to be bored. This is wonderful and complicated. At the edges of the map, something presses a knuckle into the paper from the other side. Creases appear you cannot iron. Birds fly wrong once, then correct themselves. A lamppost flickers in a rhythm that, if you charted it, would spell a tidy word, soon. Ford draws a wheel on the floor and places people around it like invitations at a dinner nobody asked to host. Symbols align with faces. The room breathes funny the moment it makes sense, the way a crowd goes quiet before clapping. Dipper's symbol glows a little, not with light. Meaning shines without bothering lamps. They try. The wheel nearly turns. A hiccup of doubt, a misunderstanding, an old wound pretending to be a new fact. Whatever you call it, the circle pauses. That pause becomes a crack in a dam. Ford tells the twins the truth wrapped in care. There's a door in the sky. A specific shape wants very much to walk through it. He can't unless invited properly. He will try to trick the locks. We must be boring enough to beat him. Boring means careful. Boring means today, heroic. The kids nod. They are good at games with rules when the rules are about kindness and courage and staying together. They write the steps down as if they were a recipe. They promise not to improvise dessert. Mabel feels the summer running out like a long soda finally fizzing to flat. She worries the way a friend worries that a goodbye will come before the joke lands. Her birthday approaches. Her heart leans toward forever like a houseplant leaning toward a window. Dipper feels pulled in two directions. The sweet gravity of being a twin, the sharp gravity of being a student of dangerous wonders. He tries to carry both like pails. Some water spills. That is not failure. That is being a person. Above them, the sky draws a breath it hasn't drawn in centuries. If you could put your hand on it, you'd feel the skin of the world get the goosebumps. Cracks are not disasters yet. They are warnings shaped like art. Prepare the safe room. Recheck the wards. Put on shoes you can run in, even if you hope not to run. Practice saying no to the voice that calls you by your favorite compliment. When it happens, it will not be sudden to your heart. Your heart already knows the beat. And the beat is slow, and you are ready. Imagine a curtain that was always there but thin, and then one morning remembers it is packed with stars. It opens. The first sound is not a scream. It is a new chord in the air, a seventh you didn't expect, that turns everything a little sideways, not to frighten, only to insist you notice. Colors relax their manners. Angles boast. Gravity bends down to tie its shoe and forgets to stand up all the way. Bill steps into the world like a showman who has already sold every seat. He tips a hat he does not wear. He smiles with geometry. He talks like a radio with the station knob between channels. Charming, old-timey, cheerful, a little off. Streets ripple. Signs wink. Statues happen to people who thought they were immune to surprises. In the sky, a carnival of wrong ideas floats by, slow and harmless, as long as you stay under the awning. And the shack. The shack becomes an ark. The wards hold like good knots. The neon hum is a hymn now. Inside, the air is sensible. Breath keeps its schedule. Sweaters hold their shape. Friends gather. Some by running, some by luck. Some by the mysterious magnetism that gathers people who love each other at the right table when the lights flicker. Ford sets a map on the counter and draws a plan that looks like a treasure hunt with extra patience. Stan checks locks. Suze makes sandwiches, the kind that taste like strategy. Wendy ties her hair and shrugs as if apocalypse were just a harder shift at work. Outside, Bill rearranges taste in the most harmless ways at first. An orange becomes a cube and is still delicious. A road runs up a wall and continues in midair and somehow still gets you to the store. Time slides its chair back and forth. But the statue garden grows. That is not a joke. That is a reminder. This personality, this cheerful triangle, is not a prank. He is appetite dressed for a parade. Dipper watches from a window and writes what he sees in his mind, because writing is what you do when the world tries to confuse you. You choose your own sentences. Mabel sits beside him and chooses her own too. Stay kind, stay close, stay you. The first rescue missions are small and brave. Across a lawn that is suddenly checkerboard sky and grass, they fetch a friend. Over a fence that thinks it is a stream, they lift a neighbor. Between a joke and its punchline, they slip through before meaning can collapse into mess. The shack moves. Of course it does. Oh, wheels grow under it like a wish answered by engineering and persistence. It rolls through the new landscape like a party bus, full of stubborn hope. Bill notices and laughs. He enjoys the challenge. He makes a note to visit later like a salesman circling a house with good curtains. Night falls without asking the clock. Stars try on new shapes. The moon sighs, no more tired than usual, simply aware of novelty. Inside the shack, they sleep in shifts and keep a list. Who needs what? Where to go next? What to try if Plan A becomes a paper crane? The list has a heading in Mabel's handwriting. Weird but ours. The subheading in Dipper's. Control the controllables. They are saying the same thing. That is the secret of siblings. And though the world outside is bent, the story inside remains straight. Stand together, learn, adjust, rest, repeat. Even chaos tires. Even triangles blink. When morning shows up, late but polite, the town there is not the town yesterday, but it is still a town. The diner has turned into a polite dragon. It still serves coffee, if you say please. The river flows uphill on odd hours and downhill uneven, and the fish have decided to unionize. Mail finds the right porch by remembering the smell of the person it wants to comfort. Day 2 is coming. Surreal will stay. Sweet will stay too if you feed it. And the shack keeps rolling, a boat on a strange sea with the right crew. Every defense has a soft center. Every fortress has a window with a view good enough to make you forget walls exist. For Mabel, the soft center is forever summer. Friends on call. Crafts never running out of glue. A town where every bad mood fades like sidewalk chalk in kind rain. A birthday that lasts as long as a hug needs to. Bill knows this. He offers a gift wrapped in everything she loves. Not to hurt. To keep her busy while he tries bigger doors. Inside the bubble, the weather never forgets how to be perfect. Music comes from nowhere at the exact volume you would have chosen. Every sweater idea you sketch appears, smiling, ready to be worn. The Ferris wheel never stops at the top unless you want the view. For a while, this is rest. Real rest. The town outside is a lot. Let a kid have an hour where memories are pillows and wishes have reasonable manners. The hour grows. A seam shows. Perfect stales if you do not stir it. Dipper arrives at the edge with a hand on the glass and the other on the journal. He understands this is not a fight. It is a conversation with love inside it. He enters the bubble the way you enter a friend's room. Knock, smile, step softly, notice what they notice. He compliments the craft table. He laughs at the right jokes. He sits on the floor because chairs feel like grown-up decisions. He does not say, "This is fake." He says, "This is lovely." Then I miss you. Then I think the part of you that loves adventures misses adventures too. Mabel hears him through the music. Her heart toggles. Inside perfect. Outside real. She looks around and sees that the things she loves in here are copies made by a person who did not earn them. They are perfect the way a photograph is perfect. No win, no wait. She takes his hand. The bubble tries to bargain as bargains do. Just one more hour, it says in carousel colors. Just one more ride, one more ribbon, one more flawless sunset. Mabel squeezes. Sunsets are better with clouds, she says, surprising herself with the truth of it. They walk. The candy glass thickens and then kindly does what good glass does when it has finished its lesson. It yields. Outside, the world has not decided to behave. Good. Behavior is overrated when courage is needed. Reunions are soft. Dipper's relief is quiet. Mabel's apology is a shrug and a joke and a plan all at once. Let's make the world weird again, but the good kind. The ours kind. They add a new heading to the list on the shack wall. Promises we keep even when it's hard. Under it, they write, show up, tell the truth, pick each other, remember. Bill flares somewhere far away and then cools. He will try another door. They will be there, with socks that do not slip and rules that do not either. Night comes sooner now. That is all right. They have learned to carry their own little mornings, a flashlight, a joke, a sandwich, a sweater, a plan. And if you are drifting toward sleep, drift. You already know how this goes. The hard thing arrives. The kind thing answers. The trickster smiles. The family holds. Tomorrow will be louder. We will talk softly through it. No jump scares. Just the map, the road, and the next right turn. Breathe in. You're in the shack. Breathe out. The wards hold. We keep going. Day breaks like a promise, kept a little late. The sky still wears its odd angles, but the light is softer, as if the sun remembered to knock before coming in. Inside the shack, the list on the wall has more check marks than blanks. Sandwich crumbs share space with plans. A pencil lies across a map like a bridge. People gather. Not a perfect army. A family of misfits who know their own shapes and respect each other's edges. Friends from the woods. Neighbors from Main Street. Faces that used to glare now nod. A few surprise helpers with guilty smiles and hands held up to say, "I am here if you will have me." Sue starts coffee in a pot that has seen storms and picnics and late-night repairs. Wendy ties her flannel at the waist like she means business and also comfort. McGucket wipes grease from his fingers, mind newly his, ideas newly gentle. Pacifica arrives without her old coat of armor, shivering for a second before bravery warms her. Gideon hovers at the edge of the room like a weather vane deciding where to point next. He is small. So are apologies, sometimes. They still count. Ford stands by the chalk circle that is no longer a dare but a diagram of duty. He draws the zodiac with a hand that does not tremble now. 12 symbols spaced like ours. Not magic to him. Not superstition. A geometry of belonging. The wheel is a way to say we are a set. Together we are an answer. He explains without hurry. Names each mark. Pine tree. Shooting star, question mark. Ice bag. Heart. Stitched cap. Llama. Glasses. Six-fingered hand. And the rest, each with a face beside it, each with a task that is less about power and more about presence. Be here. Stand steady. Hold the line with who you are. Dipper listens like a quiet anchor. He copies the wheel into the journal with neat strokes. Mabel spins slowly, sweater sleeves brushing chalk dust, making sure everyone knows where to stand and where to smile and where to breathe deep. Stan keeps moving as usual, checking windows, counting supplies, pretending not to listen as he memorizes every instruction. He is not a scientist. He is a keeper of doors and a lifter of heavy fears. He knows how to be the last hand on the lock. They try the wheel. They stand in place. They speak the words Ford has chosen, simple as a greeting, old as a club. The air presses in and then out, as if the shack itself is trying to help them breathe together. Symbols glow in a way only meaning glows. Then hesitation arrives, small as a cough. A glance sideways. A doubt about a roll. A grudge not fully eaten, just nibbled. The wheel stutters. Not failure. Feedback. A note that says, almost. A suggestion that unity is not a pose. It is a muscle you have to warm up. They break for a minute. McGucket fixes nothing on purpose. He lets the chalk be chalk. He tells a soft joke about the first time he asked the machine to please be kind, and the machine tried, bless it, and dropped a bolt at its feet like a dog bringing a shoe. People laugh. Laughing is an oil for old hinges. They try again. This time, when the wheel wobbles, Mabel steps forward and names the wobble with kindness. You are scared. You are sorry. You are new. You are tired. You're good. Saying it makes space. Space lets corners relax. The wheel does not blaze. It breathes. That is better. A breath is something a person can keep up for more than a minute. Outside, Weirdmageddon rearranges itself with the cheerfulness of a parade float that took a wrong turn and found a better audience. Bill watches from his throne, built of broken rules, and claps slowly at the side of a town trying to sing in unison. He prefers solos he can drown out. Choirs make poor toys. They roll the shack. Shacktron. Shack on treads. Home and hull. It creaks with joy to be useful. The neon sign becomes a banner, not a target. They cross a street where gravity forgot its lines. They pass a corner where time is stuck in a pleasant loop and wave to the couple dancing who wave back every time the song returns to the beginning. The resistance is not epic in shape. It is practical. They fetch supplies. They set small safe zones. They slip people out of pockets where wrongness pooled. They whisper instructions to those who can hold them and sing to those who cannot. Dipper marks routes that do not make sense tomorrow. Mabel marks faces that need extra care. Ford uses a tone that makes everyone feel like a colleague. Stan uses a tone that makes everyone feel like a cousin you can rely on. At a clearing that used to be a parking lot and now is a slope of polite clouds, they pause. They look up. The tear in the sky is wider, not open all the way. Bill has not yet found the key that fits the whole lock. That is what the wheel is for. That is what standing together is for. Not to be flashy. To be heavy. To weigh down the latch with trust. There is one more try before the day tips into night. They form the circle again. Mabel takes Gideon's hand. He startles. She squeezes. He swallows. He holds on. Not forgiven. Included. Inclusion is a tool, too. The wheel holds a second longer. Enough to nudge the world's angle by a hair. Enough to teach Bill that this town has learned to count beyond one. They cannot finish it in one night. That is a lesson with manners. Important work often takes more than a single breath. They go home. They post watches. They label the soup. They sleep in shifts while the shack listens for footsteps with the intent of a guardian dog. Dipper dreams not of equations, but of faces in a circle. Mabel dreams not of bubbles, but of hands holding a rope. Ford sleeps for an hour. It is enough to reset his caution to sharp. Stan does not really sleep. He pretends convincing enough to make the house rest. Then he stands quietly and visits the basement to check the thing he knows will be asked of him if the wheel fails. He puts his hand on the old switch. He does not flip it. He says a brother's name to the machine. The machine says nothing back, but something in the room acknowledges the prayer. Morning, or the nearest available light that agrees to be called that, arrives. They eat. They plan. They practice the wheel once more for the muscle memory alone. When it flickers this time, nobody flinches. They simply hold steady the way you do when a boat leans and then levels. Bill feels the balance shift by a spoonful and juggles louder nonsense to compensate. It works on windows. It does not work on hearts that have chosen a rhythm. The day ends with a decision. The circle is good. It is not enough. There must be a smaller circle. 2 brothers. 1 trick. A deal that uses the rules better than the mischief maker expects. They look at each other across 3 decades of hurt and hope and say it without saying it. We will do the hard thing. We will do it kindly. We will make the lost land where it hurts least and heals fastest. The wheel on the floor is a chalk drawing. The wheel in their chest is a promise. They will turn that one. Soon. Breathe. Drink water. Sharpen pencils. Tomorrow asks for a steady hand. And you have one. The day that decides itself does not knock. It walks in wearing its work clothes. The sky is open enough now to show the seams of everything. Rain falls up for a minute just to prove it can. The diner dragon yawns politely and hands out napkins. Shops wear their signs at friendly tilts. The whole town is a stage in a safe room at once. Bill builds his tallest joke. A tower of noise. A courtroom without laws. A carnival throne. He invites himself to win. He spells his name across the clouds in a font that laughs at delicate things. The shack rolls into view. It does not bow. It parks. The door opens. Families of choice step out, holding on to themselves and to each other. Ford steps forward. He is dressed like a scientist and like a brother. He speaks to the triangle with the politeness you reserve for dangerous neighbors. He offers a bargain in tones that make the words feel like polished stones. Let us talk. Just you and me. A mind for mind. New horizons for you. Closure for me. Bill beams. Deals are his favorite food. He signs nothing with ink and everything with intent. What happens next has two versions. One with panic, one with craft. We will choose craft. The trick requires a switch. Not a lever, a trade. One twin for the other. A hat, a coat, a stance. A name used like a tool. The details are simple because simple details are easiest to hold while the world is moving. Bill is led to the mind he wants, or so he thinks. He steps into a room that looks like a desk and a chalkboard and a six-fingered set of memories waiting to be written over. He grins. He sharpens himself. But this is not Ford's mind. It is Stan's. A place made of scams and loyalty and jokes told at the last possible second to keep a tear from spilling. A place with trapdoors you build when life tends to take the floor from you. A place with a final matchbook in the pocket for when the lights do not work and you need to see the face of the person you love before you do something brave. The bargain closes. Bill stands where he cannot be fought with fists or chalk. He is inside the wrong theater. The plan is not to wrestle him. The plan is not to argue. The plan is to erase the stage he is standing on. If you take a sketchbook and tear out the page, whatever was drawn there is gone. Not punished. Gone. Ending is not violence here. It is the mercy of an off switch finally used for its purpose. Stan knows what this means. He is not a man who fears only for himself. He fears for the pictures he carries. 2 boys on a dock. A house that became a family. A summer that repaired a roof inside him he thought would leak forever. He looks at his brother. He grins the grin that made a town forgive 1,000 small cons because every one of them lined up behind one big truth. I got this, he says without saying it. Ford nods without nodding. The nod contains the years where apology slept and wakefulness hurt and then got better. They begin. Inside Stan's head, the shelves catch. Paper curls. Names unwrite. Bill rages like a storm trapped in a library while the books decide to become smoke. We will not linger. We will not make loss a spectacle. We will say it like this. A candle goes out. 100 small nightlights flicker too. For a breath, there is only the sound a house makes when it empties before a storm. A hush with bones. Outside, the triangle's lines blur. Edges wilt. The smile skews and then is nothing. He does not die because ideas do not. He ends in this place. He loses his address. He becomes once again a rumor you should be careful with. The tower of wrongness stumbles. Gravity ties its shoes. Time finds its chair and sits properly. Statuates soften. Color remembers its range. The town does not cheer. It exhales the longest exhale in its history. Then it listens. Because something else is happening. Stan blinks. Not like a man waking. Like a man whose morning has been removed and replaced with noon. He looks at faces that know his jokes by heart. He does not know why they are smiling and crying together. He flinches at their tenderness without meaning to. Tenderness is heavy when you have lost the map it rides in on. Mabel moves first. Of course she does. She walks as if she is carrying an egg she cannot drop. She says hello like it is the first time, all over again. She shows him a page in a scrapbook with his face doing something ridiculous. She laughs at it softly and waits for him to join the laugh. He does not. Not yet. She does not stop. Love is a repetition, not a single stroke. Dipper stands nearby with the journal closed. Not everything needs words right now. He holds a hat. He holds his breath just a little. He says, "Hey." Grunkle Stan, very quietly. The name is a key that does not turn. Not on the first try. Keys are patient. They were made to find their lock again and again. Ford kneels. A man who can lecture galaxies sits on the floor because floors are where brothers meet if they have to, if that is what kindness asks. He says little. He looks at the face that has irritated and rescued him in equal measure since they were boys and lets his own face do the work memory cannot. It trembles. It forgives. It hopes. Hours pass like geese, loud at the start, far away by evening. Pieces return in small coins. A phrase. A look. The way to hold a mug. The habit of checking a cash register even when it is not there. Suze brings soup and calls Stan Mr. Pines and my dude and sir all in one sentence and somehow makes all three true. Wendy leans back in a chair and tells a story about the time he faked a monster foot and got high schoolers to pay double for a tour, and that story is a rope stretched across a small gap, and he steps on it and does not fall. The town adjusts the way towns do. Shops open. Windows air out. People pretend today is normal until it becomes true. Pretending is not lying. It is inviting truth to catch up. In the corner of the shack, the wheel still shines faintly. It is not needed now. That is what success looks like sometimes. A tool you can put away with thanks. Night comes. Real night. Stars arranged in a math that does not bite. The moon skims the ridge as if tiptoeing past a sleeping child. Inside the house, Stan sleeps. On a couch. With a blanket that knows his weight from years of naps. Dreams do not visit. That is all right. Tomorrow has enough faces to meet. Ford stands watch for a while out of habit and love and then lets himself rest, finally like a bridge that is held and can now be walked across without checking the bolts every step. Bill is gone from here. That is enough sentence for tonight. If you need to sleep, this is a good place. The worst door is shut. The house has learned how to lock it. The keys are with people who tell jokes, make soup, knit too many hats, over-explain magnets, and wipe counters as a form of prayer. Rest. Dawn lifts like someone opening a curtain in a gentle room. The town looks at itself in the mirror and nods. A little older. A little kinder. A little less impressed by the sort of chaos that only wants attention. Streets hold tire tracks that go nowhere, impossible anymore. Chalk drawings on sidewalks look like chalk again. The bell tower tests its voice and finds it in tune. People pick up. They sweep confetti that fell from the wrong sky and decide to keep some of it in jars on counters for the next time a child needs proof that the world can be strange and sweet without being cruel. The statue garden thins. A few shapes remain for a while longer. Not out of malice, but because waking takes different clocks for different folks. Neighbors leave notes. Coffee. Blankets. Stories told at the right volume to encourage return. The shack opens its door at half-mast and lets the town step in one at a time, the way a church would if a church had rubber spiders and souvenir pennants. People sign a guest book with shaky jokes that say in their sideways way, "We are proud of you, old house." You did it. Above the register, a photograph hangs again, right side out. Two boys on a dock, a coin tossed. The water holding the circle where it landed. Today that circle looks like a wheel. The river remembers its one brief career as a staircase and decides it prefers being a river. Fish go back to ignoring unions. The diner returns to eggs and coffee and the comfort of a bell that rings when the door opens and you recognize the person walking in. If you stand at the edge of the forest and listen, you will hear a new quiet. Not emptiness. Full room. A space for voices that deserve to be heard above the hum of mischief. It is time for goodbye. Not forever. Just the summer kind. The best kind. The kind that promises postcards, calls, a next time, a plan. The bus will arrive soon. It will sigh. It will kneel. Two kids will step up with backpacks that are heavier, and hearts that are stronger, and faces that have learned how to carry both. Before that, a boat must be checked. Two brothers must shake hands again, the handshake long, the grip honest, the words few. We will go there now, quietly. Morning in the shack tastes like pancakes. Sue's has made too many on purpose. Mabel eats hers with sprinkles because of course. Dipper eats his with thoughtfulness, as if syrup can be a way to say thank you. Stan sits at the table. He looks at the plate like it is a clue. His hand knows the fork. His mouth knows the bite. Memory is a garden. Some plants were burned, some roots still hold water. He drinks coffee the way he always did, with a face that says it is both terrible and perfect, and that contradiction comforts him. Mabel presents a scrapbook labeled Summer, then, in smaller letters, Ours. Inside, a page for everything. Gnomes, crafts, mystery tours, inside jokes, pictures of the wheel with doodles. This is not a cure. It is a ladder. Stan climbs the rung without noticing. He smiles at the picture where his hat is crooked and his eyebrow is making fun of itself. Smiling is the brain's favorite door. Dipper places the journal on the table. He does not push it toward anyone. He sets his hand on it for a second the way you set a hand on a sleeping cat to say, "I am here. Thank you for being here." Ford watches without intruding, proud in the quiet way people are when someone younger learned a language you love. Outside, the bus is still a rumor. Exhaust not yet scented. Brakes not yet whispering. There is time for one more errand. Down to the water, to the dock, to the boat that waited on paper for decades and finally has boards and ribs and bolts and a name scratched into its side with a pocket knife and a grin. Stan War II. A joke. A wish. A charm. Ford runs a hand along the rail. Stan kicks the tire that a boat does not have because he kicks tires when he is happy and cannot think what else to kick. They do not say much. They do not need to. The boat is a sentence. It says, "We are going." It says, "We will send postcards from places with birds that do not speak English but understand nuts." It says, "The horizon is not a confession. It is an invitation." Suze arrives with a cooler and a speech that he swears is short and is not. Wendy brings a coil of rope and a salute. McGucket brings a tool he insists they will need, and a warning that, if it starts humming in a minor key, throw it overboard. Pacifica pretends not to care, and then cares obviously and leaves a scarf tied where a figurehead would be to keep luck entertained. The goodbye at the dock is the right size. No pageant. No solemnity that would crush the air. Hugs that mean it. Handshakes that fit. A hat adjusted. A joke. Another joke to soften the first. A pause that lets the heart do the thing hearts do when they do not want to break or brag. They expand a little. They make room for two truths at once. Leaving is sad. Leaving is good. Back at the shack, the bus pulls up like a large, gentle animal. It kneels with a hiss that sounds like the town sighing, not in relief, not in grief, just in acknowledgement. Time to go. Stan stands by the door and tries an uncle move he does not remember learning. He pulls both kids in and squeezes too long and too hard and says, "You come back now." Like a man who has earned the right to be obvious. They nod into his vest. They promise in the fluent language of twins that promises should get. Ford puts a hand on Dipper's shoulder. The boy who copied careful diagrams now has careful diagrams of his own under his skin. "Keep asking good questions," Ford says. Simple as bread. Dipper says, "I will." He means it. Mabel hugs Ford and tells him to write more notes, but in bigger letters and with more stickers, and to try hot chocolate, without the extra powder sometimes, because life is sweet enough if you let it be. Ford agrees to 2 out of 3 and accepts a glitter star on his coat that he will forget he is wearing until someone points it out 100 miles from now, and then he will keep it on purpose. Suze loads the last bag and wipes his eyes with a napkin. He swears it's from the pancakes, and might be. Wendy flicks Dipper's cap brim and tells him to text when he gets home and to remember that bravery and kindness are the same thing with different boots. Pacifica gives Mabel a look that means call me, and also an eye roll that means do not make this weird, and also a smile that betrays both in the best way. They climb the steps. Mabel turns halfway, memorizes the doorway, the sign, the neon, the shape of a summer in the exact light it deserves. Dipper turns too, eyes wet, not hiding it. Why would you? Hiding is for monsters. Humans are allowed to shine and leak. The bus door closes with the soft kiss good doors use when they know they are. The engine hums like a lullaby. Wheels roll. The shack gets smaller, then not. Houses do not become less because distance pretends they do. They live at full size inside you. The road unspools. Pines pass in a rhythm that makes sleep easy if you let it. Mabel leans her head against the window and draws a heart in fog with her breath. And inside it writes GF. Dipper opens the journal, not to read, but to add one line. End of summer. Weird. Beautiful. To be continued. Behind them, the town gets to work on its next version of itself. Signs fixed. Trails cleared. Notes exchanged. A community that survived not because it is tough, but because it is tender. Tenderness is the toughest material we have found so far. At the end of Main Street, Stan and Ford stand side by side like bookends. They watch the bus until there's a dot. Then they turn to the water because they have a new dot to chase, a horizon to measure, a quiet to learn together. They step onto the boat. It dips. It accepts. Lines cast off. An engine coughs and then purrs. Two men who once could not share a room share a world. Night will come to them at sea. Stars will draw their own wheel in the sky. They will sit under it and talk about everything and also nothing, which is the same thing when your company is right. On the bus, Mabel sleeps first. Dipper watches the last hills pass and thinks about triangles that look like stars and stars that look like holes in a blanket big enough to cover a valley full of friends. He lets his eyes close. He does not fight the lull. He knows the town will keep watch without him. If you are still awake, you can close your eyes now, too. The story has made it safely to the bus stop, to the dock, to the table, to the quiet. Bill is a rumor again. The journals are ink and paper again. The shack is a house again. The summer is a treasure that weighs nothing and everything and lives where you can reach it when the night is long and you need a small, brave light. The engine hums. The pines murmur. The road flows under you like a gentle river that already knows the way home. Good night. Sit back. Breathe once. Think of the wheel not as a spell, but as a circle of chairs on a porch. Each chair has a carving. Each carving hints at a person, a role, a way of helping. The power isn't in the chalk. The power is in the people who stand where the chalk asks, bring their best selves in steady hands. The circle itself. A circle is an old promise. No first, no last, only neighbors. When the town drew that shape, it was saying, we will take turns being brave. We will hold when someone else trembles. We will pass the light along. The pine tree. A small, pointed emblem for a kid who points himself at questions. Pines keep their color when other trees give up for winter. Curiosity can do that too. It means, keep looking, even when maps wrinkle. It whispers to anyone holding it, observe, note, return. Oh, the shooting star. A streak across a soft sky, joy in a hurry. Stars fall and make wishes audible. This mark stands for the kind of kindness that acts first and asks logistics later. It says, brighten the room, and courage will see better by your light. The question mark. Printed on a friend's shirt and on the town's heart. Questions are how love moves cleverly. What do you need? What can I fix? Where does it hurt? Set this symbol down in any room and the screws stop rolling away. Someone will find the right tool. The bag of ice. Cool head. Warm loyalty. A reminder that sometimes the bravest act is to keep your pulse slow when others are sprinting. Ice calms swelling so the real work can start. This sign means steady hands, good humor, climb the fence first, throw the rope back down. The glasses. 2 lenses, 1 intention. See truly. They belong to menders of machines and menders of minds, the ones who admit, I was wrong, and then make it right with bolts, apologies, and better plans. Through these, you can spot where the past bent and where to set it straighter. The 6-fingered hand, an imprint of careful genius, the author's mark. Extra fingers, extra trouble, extra grace. It honors the vow to measure before you name, to warn before you dazzle, to write as if the next reader is someone you love. The Fez emblem, stitched crest. A stitched sign from a hat that met 1,000 customers and told 1,000 harmless lies to fund a single true promise. It represents guardianship cloaked in jokes, the strength to pull the last lever, the courage to pay the price quietly. The llama. At first, just a sweater joke. Later, a doorstop against old cruelty. This mark travels from giggle to grit. It means change is real. People can be gentler tomorrow than they were yesterday. Wear it when you must stand between a friend and a curse. The heart. Sometimes stitched, sometimes mended, always working. Not the fragile kind. The useful kind that pumps through storms and keeps dancing anyway. This sign speaks for the risk of trusting again, for apologies that arrive late but true. The glass, tumbler. A simple cup, clear, honest. For all who carry hospitality into danger, sandwiches, soup, spare blankets, open doors, a practical magic. Have some water. Sit. Now tell me everything and we'll sort it out. The shooting cap, stitched cap, thread, needle, patience. For makers. For the hands that knot nets under high wires, sew wards into curtains and hem courage into sleeves. It says, we can craft safety. We can repair what tears. And the wheel, when it turns, The chalk wheel never roared, it breathed. Circles don't obliterate monsters, they outlast them. Stand where your sign asks. Be entirely yourself. That's the whole ritual. If you ever forget what means what, you can still use the circle. Put a pine needle, a button, a coin, a pebble, a paper star, 12 small tokens, to mark 12 people willing to help. Then breathe together. That's the pattern the demon could not learn. Together. Walk with me through a museum after closing. No rope alarms, no loud shoes. We read plaques in a whisper and let the exhibits forgive us for coming late. The Society of the Blind Eye. Down a hallway that smells like old film, there's a projector room where forgetting used to be a public service. It wasn't cruelty, it was fatigue with fear. A hum, a flash, a sigh. Memories gently blurred. People left lighter and smaller. The town slept better and woke duller. When the bulb finally cooled and the switch clicked off, it wasn't because forgetting is evil. It was because remembering is a sturdier wall. The plaque here says, kindness without truth cannot hold a roof through winter. Another line adds, truth without kindness is a skylight in a rainstorm. The twins chose both, truth and then blankets. The Northwest family. We enter a wing of portraits with perfect frames. The paint tried very hard to be good. Some paintings lied. Money can lacquer over guilt until even the guilty forget what color it used to be. A bell used to ring and servants used to hurry. One night the bell rang and no one came because courage replaced command. On that night, a house peeled its manners off and kept its heart. If you look close at the gilt plaques now, you find small corrections engraved in a new hand. Not founders, beneficiaries, not nobles, students. The mansion still stands, but the door is kinder when it closes. The town's palimpsest. A palimpsest is a page written over an older page. Gravity Falls is one. Under Main Street, earlier paths, under legends, errands, under cowardice, love that hadn't learned its name. When the society stopped erasing, the older ink showed through, contradictory, complicated, human. That is when the town got stronger. A town that can admit it was wrong can lift heavier things. The gentle corrections. Not every revelation boomed. Many were murmurs. A handyman reclaiming a life in full focus. A girl learning that wealth was an address, not a virtue. A crowd realizing the town we always were was actually the town we're choosing now. History became a mirror you can stand before without flinching because the frame finally fits your true height. If you ever visit this museum in your mind again, the guard will let you linger. He knows you're not here for scandal, you're here for context. Context is a lullaby for the mind. It says there were reasons, there were pressures, there were mistakes, and then there were choices, better ones. We switch rooms. The carpet becomes water. The lights become faraway fish. Your steps make no sound. Some stories whisper of a being shaped like a nursery rhyme in an ancient river. An axolotl that swims where storytelling itself is born. It hears names from every corridor, maybe. It hums in syllables that sound like riddles and lullabies sharing a pillow. If Bill was a door you can draw, the axolotl is a pond you can't. Some say it keeps ledger and mercy in the same jar. Some say it listens when a fallen thing tries to learn a better verb than conquer. If you ever hear a chant about triangles and chances and let him be better, take it as a poem, not a contract. Here are safe ways to hold this idea at bedtime. Think of the axolotl as the part of the universe that loves second drafts. Think of it as a librarian whose stamps return later instead of overdue. Think of it as the soft law that says endings are local. Elsewhere, someone may be rewriting. And if you prefer no cosmology before sleep, let it be only this. Water sounds, tiny gills, a creature that smiles like a sideways moon and keeps swimming. You do not need to know the deep rules to rest on the shore. Lights down, curtains half open, so a friendly star can sit on the sill. The house is tired in the good way, used, laughed in, mended. Tonight we leave the town as we found it, listening to itself. The sign out front doesn't squeak as much. Someone oiled it while you weren't looking. The bell across the way practices a single chime and gets it right. The river turns a page, not because it must, but because stories like to breathe between chapters. Two kids sleep on a bus, heads bumping softly with the road's slow heartbeat. A hat slips, a smile stays. A journal rests with its elastic wrapped. It knows it will be opened again by hands that wash dishes and fix bikes and hold other hands. Learning lives on even when the book is closed. Out on the water, two brothers sit back to back against the same memory, looking different directions at the same moon. The engine purrs. The wake writes small cursive that no one needs to read to understand. Forgiveness doesn't erase, it weaves. Their boat is a stitch running forward. In the woods, creatures compare notes on quiet. Owls sign off, crickets click save. The deer that once turned into 11 crows decides to be only a deer tonight. That's all right. Enough magic remains in the way pine needles make a green hush over the trail. If you listen with your eyes closed, you'll hear the wheel turning. Not the chalk one, the living one. It turns whenever someone chooses truth with kindness, bravery with jokes, science with warnings, love with boundaries. It turns in kitchens and on docks and at bus stops and under porch lights. It turns when a hand finds another, and both decide to keep holding through the weird parts. You can sleep now. The town has watchkeepers, a girl who knits courage into sleeves, a boy who labels mysteries without letting them eat him, a handyman with a toolbox full of yes, a friend who laughs the temperature down, a scientist who underlines his cautions, a guardian who will flip the right switch at the last second and pay the bill with a grin. If a triangle ever drifts across your dreams, let it pass like a cloud. If a wheel appears, step where it invites and bring only yourself. That is exactly enough. If the river hums a tune you almost remember, hum back, and it will carry you to morning. Breathe in, sap, paper, rain on tin. Breathe out, worry, hurry, noise. Above the pines, a star blinks, a slow goodnight. Below them, the sign turns once in the breeze and faces east, ready for dawn. Between them, you, warm, safe, held by a story that knows when to stop talking and let sleep take the last lines. We end where we began, under the trees, with a small triangle of starlight caught in the needles. Not a warning, not a threat, just a reminder that even sharp shapes look gentle from far away. Good night, Gravity Falls. Good night, Bus Hum. Good night, Dock Rope. Good night, chalk that did its job and rests. Good night, you. May your dreams keep their promises, and may morning find you already smiling.